Many of you have a question or doubt like in the online mode, how the lab session can work, how can we run the lab session. So don't worry, in the lab session part, I will take from here. I have all the code and file. I will explain each and every code with the data set, with input and output. I will also explain what the code is working and interpretation of the results. There is no only single aim to run the code and see the output. Why the output is coming, how to optimize the code, and when they optimize the code, we may see some changes in the output and why these changes are coming. We will discuss all the interpretation. Okay, so I'm going to start the first session, that is a fundamental of AI and machine learning. Okay. So nowadays, everybody have a lot of discussion on the AI and machine learning. That is not a new word. We will discuss in the later. That is one of the fastest growing branch of high tech technology, and we have seen in the recent year, AI has shown their application in almost every field in every aspect of the life. So you might have listened the Bill Gates, that is a founder of the Microsoft. He has announced last year that were he able to go back with the time and make an impact in new way, then he would consider three new fields. First field he suggested the AI, because he consider AI one of the fundamental new branch of engineering or science that has just started. We didn't see the real impact of the AI in our life. A lot big step, a lot of big way need to go. So he's considering AI one of the fundamental field of science and technology, and can have a high impact on the human being or human life. Second field he has considered energy, because everything and every advancement of a human life, the energy is behind. So he also suggested energy is one of the fundamental things where we can consider that how can we generate energy without pollution, green energy, like a lot of things he has considered. Third field he has suggested about the bioscience or health issues. So he want an impact on the human life so that we can live longer with a healthy life. So the three field he has suggested: AI, energy, and bioscience. So uh, hello, I'm audible to everybody. Hello. And what is the meaning of intelligence? So in simple word, if you say the intelligence is the capacity to learn and solve the problem. So and another word is the artificial. Then we have to a little bit discuss about how the word artificial came into the existence. So uh, intelligence normally we consider whatever the intelligence and the things knowledge that is given by the nature. Like nature has given intelligence to all the living things, including human, animal, insect. Everybody have a some intelligence by birth. So that is the intelligence given by the nature. So now the word intelligence came into the existence here. Artificial means just some intelligence on some ability that we can generate for the machines. Means machine can behave, can think, can take a decision the way a human being can take a decision in some given context. So we are going to generate, or we are able to make a machines that can have a, some intelligence, can have that kind of ability that a human being. If you are able to do the same thing, that is called artificial, because it is given by the human being, it is not given by the nature. So that is called artificial intelligence. So the AI is a simulation of human intelligence by the machines, because the way machine can behave, if the machine can mimic the way human behave, it is called the artificial intelligence. There is a 3 point also visible in the slide, where the ability to solve a problem comes under the AI, the ability to act rationally comes under the AI, the ability to act like a human being comes to the AI. We also discuss what is the AI in detail in later slide. So comes the definition. Actually, I want to make it clear. There is no any agreed upon definition that is really defined for AI in a holistic way or AI in all the dimensions. Different people have it comes from a different background, have their own AI definition. So let's start with the some of the some few definition I have just quoted here. AI is the science of engineering and making intelligent machine. To try to keep the word, the basic objective the AI is making the intelligent machine. When I talk about the machine means not I'm talking about only the hardware like a robot. Machine means anything with the program or system that comes under the machine. Especially AI nowadays, AI we are discussing is something to create or develop a computer program or software that that act as a intelligent engine and that earn the or get
आ गई
the
आ गई आ
intelligence
गई हाँ
from the data
थैंक यू डियर
and
थैंक यू
and behave the way human being.
हैं
Similarly, the
हाँ
branch of
तो
computer
डेफिनेशंस हो
science.
रही ने
Hello,
हाँ
hello. Please mute yourself. Hello, hello, ma'am. Okay, thank you. So, automation of the intelligent behavior, sometimes called is the AI, and the artificial intelligence sometimes say if we are able to make a computer or program or system that can mimic, that can duplicate the function of human brain, or they can perform the task the way human being perform. So that is sometime if we can refer all these definitions in in one word, we can say automation of intelligent behavior. Automation of intelligent behavior, I means to the sentence is that we can make a system that can automate, they can self-learn, they can change their behavior with the data, with the context. We don't need to program explicitly what need to be done. If the computer is able to learn by himself or by itself, by seeing the observations around that, by environment, by data and other things, then we can say the system is working or behaving the way human will behave. Okay. So go to the next slide. Uh, the history of AI. I will not take much time to discuss this slide. Normally nowadays, the people who are not core field from the AI and machine learning, they think the AI is a very new branch or a very new concept, AI and machine learning. But I must make it clear that the word AI is first time given by McCarthy. McCarthy is well-known figure. I hope everybody knows that. He is known as a father of AI. So he coined this term AI in 1956 in some conference in the USA, and he explained over there what is the meaning of AI. So AI is not a new word, not a new concept, and not a new branch normally people consider. Then machine learning. And people think AI is little bit older, and then later machine learning comes. So again, make it clear. Alan Turing, everybody know here, he has defined in 1950 how to evaluate, how to measure the ability of machines the way it can behave like a human being. Yes, if you have a machine, if you have a program, uh, he has given a formula that can check the how the machine is equivalent to the human being, how machine can earn or learn from the data the way human learn. So you think in 1950, the Alan Turing have defined to measure the intelligence of the machine. So both the words are not new words. That is, people are working in this field from a long back, and no doubt there were some limitations related to the hardware with the data. So at those times we couldn't achieve the things like today we have. So, but the things are very old and not new. So come into the in 1950, that was the time where the first time given by the Alan Turing, we can measure the machine intelligence. 1955, John McCarthy had given the definition of the AI, concept of the AI, what the AI can achieve. And later in 1974 or 80s, we had a lot of computer that was feasible for the companies, for the users, so the people started with the computer. In 1980 or 1919, the AI. Then I think everybody know the book everybody have studied, the Rich and Night. That is the AI book. I mean, during my we have also studied that book. So if you try to recall the content of that book, Rich and Night, I'm talking about the basic concept and the AI at that time were related to the logic and predicates. In that book, we didn't see the training and learning and the machine are learning from the data. So at those time, data was not so important, and we are not gaining a machine. The machine is not getting knowledge and learning from the data. Basic the AI around the 90s or 80s, it was around the predicate and logic based AI. Then later in 2000, then we have seen a drastically change the way the AI were we have studied. Then real sense, real scenario today we are just experiencing started coming from the 2000 where a lot of data came into the environment. Data was available easily. So many things were available there that can perform analyze the data and get the artifact and pattern from the data. So this is the way that you can consider history of the AI. So that is screen. I think everybody can see. I'm talking about the line time around 20 years back, where these movie was really very impressive movie, and that movie we normally called a science fiction movie. So at those times, if you discuss with the person, what do you think? These movies are really possible. These things are really possible in real life in coming days. Then everybody say no, that this is the only imagination. This is the only the concept, and we thought something that is no related with the existing life that we are living. So it is just a science fiction movie. And you may recall the discussion around 20 years back when we talk about the AI, then normally we think about the robot. So AI means robot. If the robot in production line or in the industry can do a work on behalf of the human being, and then we call look how intelligent that robot is, and it is an AI. And also, I'm trying to recall the discussion around 20 years back when people say, is the robot going to replace the human being? Or what is the difference between robot and the human being? Then people would agree about those times. Yeah, robot is nice thing. He can complete their work excellently and within a time and with quality. But everybody agreed that the robot cannot replace the human being because robot doesn't have the feeling. They don't have emotional. Whatever we program, according to the programming, according to the instruction, robot can complete their task, but they cannot replace the human being. They cannot uh, behave the way human because they don't have feeling, emotions, and everything. But I think you are witness of nowadays advancement with the AI. Everybody know about the Sophia. There is a lot of humanoid robots, or better to say, there's social humanoid robots like a Sophia. So Sophia is so famous, and everybody know. If I now today ask the same question, are you sure the robot doesn't have the feeling? So if you know about the humanoid robot or social humanoid robot like a Sophia, then you can say no, I'm not so confident today right now because yeah, today's scenario is different, and we can say nowadays robot may have a feeling. Sophia is an example. Sophia can laugh. Sophia can understand the context, and Sophia can understand your feeling and your emotions. And according to the emotions or feelings, she can change their behavior, their content, and a lot of. So nowadays, everything has changed. Actually, what I'm talking about a big thing that is called trajectory of the AI. Trajectory of AI means how the AI advancement in the AI is going to change and how the impact of AI in our life. The trajectory means that around 20 years back, all if you refer to the all science fiction movie and try to recall or refer at that time articles, they normally articles full of the content that yeah, it is possible. The science books, science fiction movie like things, it is possible, but it will take around 80 years. The prediction was it will take around 80 years where the robot have some kind of feeling and they can behave like a human being. But today you will see within a 20 years we have a robot, we have a humanoid robot like a Sophia, and there are so many such kind of robots. They have a feeling, and what we have projected to achieve next 80 years, we have achieved within a 20 years. So in the field of science and technology and society, 20 years like a tomorrow. So 80 years can be achieved within a 20 years. So it is out of our imagination. It is unpredictable what is going to be happen in next 20 years. How the AI and machine learning is going to impact our life, human life, and our society next 20 years. It is unpredictable. The growth is exponential. So Uh, uh, so, so, so that's why the people and the Bill Gates suggesting that AI is one of the field that is going to really impact them. That was something about the history of the AI and how the AI is impacting how the AI is evolving. There are three kind of branches of the AI you can see the people is talking about. Like sometimes people say artificial intelligence, sometimes machine learning, sometimes so normally, if you are the beginner, all these three things comes into the similar way. And if you consider all the three were in a similar way at the beginning level, that is not a, but there is a difference. As I already discussed, if I say the AI, or people when talk about the AI, it is a big umbrella, a big branch. And typical AI means logic or reasoning or predictive based type of knowledge or learning you can achieve through that way. That is called the AI. Later, in the later, when we have more a lot of data, huge data were available, we have a social website and a lot of things. One minute. Yes, sir. Excuse me 1 minute. What was the command? What was the command? Okay. Okay. Sorry for disturbance. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. So we were discussing about the three name AI, machine learning, and deep learning. When I talk about the AI, the basically I mean to the something that can learn from the we can teach the system in the way that we can perform the logical operations and predicates and reasoning based. Then later, then we have a lot of data that was available cheaply, and we can play with the data. Then we can generate, we can make the system intelligent through the data analysis. So when comes the data and we learn from the data, that field comes normally we call a machine learning. There is a sub branch of the AI. Later, uh, in the current advancement, we have a new kind of branch that is called deep learning, where we have basically we focus on the algorithm that are related to the neural network, and basically the deep learning, the branch of AI that is really very impressive if you have a data set in the form of images and video. So if you have text data, numerical data, and other kind of social data, then machine learning perform and have shown a lot of good performance and effective kind of learning. With the deep learning, if the data set is image data set, video data set, and you want to focus on the neural network based algorithm, then comes with the deep learning. So if you say the AI means everything, I'm talking about the machine learning, deep learning together. If you use that word, the AI. I'm not going to go in much detail and much deep into the difference between all these three. Okay, now the basic interesting concept is that normally I have experienced people are confused over here. So there is basically two type of programming style: conventional programming and AI or machine learning based programming. Normally, if you talk or discuss with the students are very much confused. If you say, "Oh, nowadays I am just try to learn a data science and machine learning. That's why I'm learning Java. And I'm sorry, I'm learning Python or R." So people are confused that Python means data science, R means data science and machine learning. and if you are learning the C or C++ Java means that is a conventional programming. It is not like that at all. The concept of the machine learning and conventional programming is independent from the language. The same kind of application, either you are interested to the machine learning or conventional programming, any the language where you feel comfortable you can use and develop both type of application. Means AI and machine learning are not language dependent. Where we can compile and we can force to learn the Python because Python is a AI. It is not. Now then the question is that what is the difference between conventional and AI programming or machine learning programming? So before going dive into the detail, first we have to understand what is the deterministic and non-deterministic problem. So when I say the deterministic problems or deterministic algorithms,
Hello.
those kind of hello
Hi, sir. Your voice is not properly audible.
now hello now it is clear.
Now is it audible? Yeah, it's clear now, but in between you have a lot of fluctuation on your end.
Okay, so sure. Now it is okay. So there is two category of problems. So whatever the hello, I'm okay now.
Yeah, it's okay, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, okay, very much.
okay, so what kind of application and program you want to develop? You can consider these applications either as a deterministic or either non-deterministic. When I say the deterministic application or deterministic algorithms, I mean to say for a particular input, if you feed the particular input, the computer will always produce the same output going through the same state or same steps, you can say. So whatever the input I am providing, computer always follow the same step and always give the same output. But in the non-deterministic kind of applications, for the same input, a computer can produce a different kind of output for the different runs. So you cannot ensure that 2 plus 2 always the computer will be 4. That is the example I am giving. In a deterministic application, 2 plus 2 always be 4, and in non-deterministic applications, 2 plus 2 may be 4, maybe 5, maybe 3. And different run, it may give the different answer. So, and you see the table on the slide, some point I have written over there. For the deterministic application, computer will always give the same output for the same input. But for the deterministic application, for a different execution, it may have a different output. Second difference was that it in deterministic kind of problem, we can guarantee to solve that problem in polynomial time. But non-deterministic application, this is not a case. We cannot guarantee to solve in polynomial time. Third, in deterministic application, in between in the execution, you can predict, you can say that this is the next step is going to be executed. Because the sequence is fixed based on the condition, based on the input, you can predict what is the next step to be going to be executed. But in the non-deterministic application, it is not like this. You cannot predict, you cannot have an idea what is the next step is going to be executed. And also in deterministic application, full of randomness. Randomness means you don't know what is the output based on the input, what the next step is going to be executed, all those things. So it is high degree of randomness. Opposite in non-deterministic application, it is a full degree of randomness, fully random applications. So take example, it will help you a lot. Suppose these are the programs and this is the statement it is written over there. Write a program to addition of number, calculate area of a circle, maturity amount calculator, salary calculation, factorial calculation. For any application, you can normally when you teach the C, C++, Java for our UG student, what kind of programs or assignment realistic problems. All comes under the conventional programming in database. When I say the deterministic problem means I am talking about the conventional programming style. When I talk about the non-deterministic problem, non-deterministic applications, I'm talking about the I'm going towards to the AI and machine learning based programming. So uh, uh, in the example, in other way, if I can make it clear, if you are able to given a problem, if you are able to solve a problem on the paper, means you have a mathematical solution for a given problem. You can solve a problem with a logical way on the paper. It comes under a deterministic problem. You see all the problem I have here over there. The solution is available on the paper. You can explain the solution with the paper, with the formula and everything over there. In the programming, you have to only write the code to execute that one. But if I consider this kind of problem, suppose that example of non-deterministic problem, here I say I want to develop a program or system that can recognize the handwritten digit. So one thing I want to make it clear, these handwritten digit, I mean to say it is not like ASCII value, where zero have some fixed ASCII value, one have another fixed ASCII value, and two have a fixed ASCII value. So the moment when you type with the computer, with the laptop or with the keyboard, normally computer receive a digit with the ASCII value. That is not a case I'm talking about. I'm talking about the images. Suppose suppose nameplate, vehicle number plate. I want to read from the image. So the moment the vehicle pass from the red light and that the camera is still over, we will just click and take the image. Not to the image, the computer have to read what is the number plate and what is the number written over there. So I mean to say, I want to recognize the number that is in the form of image. Make it more difficult that problem. So take example of handwritten recognition, handwritten digit recognition. Then everybody know every human being have their own style, own way to writing the every digit. So the way I write a zero, it might be different the way you write the zero. So every human being, you take any example, the writing of writing style is different. So there is no any formula. So suppose I want to develop a solution for this non-deterministic problem, the way we solve a deterministic problem. Then we have to think on the paper, what is the formula to recognize zero. So you try to think in 1 minute, can you write a formula to recognize the zero, to recognize the one, to recognize the two or three, whatever digit comes in your mind. There is no any formula at all. There is no any logical step you can write, and if the computer follow that logical step, it will able to recognize it is 0, 1 or 3. So that is that. In that way you can think, if you don't have a solution, or you don't have mathematical solution, you don't have logical solution, and you cannot solve this problem on the paper. So this problem comes into the non-deterministic problem. So where the conventional programming fail to handle this kind of issues. That is the area where the really AI and machine learning comes, and it is helpful for you. Similarly, take another example. Suppose fruit. You take example of a banana over there. I want to develop an application. The moment you will take a image of any fruit, it is able to recognize, it is able to classify whether it is banana, mango, or orange. So again, think, can we write a program that can really recognize the banana in the conventional way? Then if yes, then we have to formulate it. We have to define a formula. What is the formula of banana? What is the formula of grapes? And the formula of any fruit? But we know in really we cannot write this kind of formula, because the shape of banana that is visible over there is almost similar. But in the real life, you may encounter banana of a different color, different shape, maybe horizontal, maybe inclined view. So it is not possible to write a programming convention. So this is the area that comes under the non-deterministic applications, where the AI and machine learning really help us. Take another example. Suppose the application I want to develop, the moment I will, that is object recognition, that is pattern recognition or object recognition. I feed some image, and the computer have to recognize what kind of object over there. So if I feed the bucket have some kind of fruit, then output must be like that. This bucket contain banana, grapes, apple, orange, like that. It means that ability must be with the computer to recognize all these objects. So in the conventional programming, we cannot have a solution in that way, because the computer didn't learn. We cannot teach a computer in conventional way how these objects look like. They don't have learning. They don't have idea about that. So these are the application area, and I think I am able to make it clear what are the deterministic application and what are non-deterministic applications. because people are also nowadays talking about that it's the time of machine learning AI. It is going to replace everything we have learned, and it is going to replace all the conventional programming. It is not like that at all. Both kind of programming style handle the different kind of problems. If you want to make a develop a banking system, railway system, reservation system, all payroll system, still the conventional programming is there. It is always be there to solve that kind of problem. And nowadays, different kind of problems we are encounter that comes under the non-deterministic way. Then we have AI and machine learning. So there is no any competition between AI, machine learning, or conventional programming, and something is going to replace to each other. That is not like that. Both have a different target, different kind of problem. Okay, now I think everything is clear in the view of conventional programming and machine learning. So I'm not going to detail what is the application of the AI, because we know nowadays AI is everywhere. You can imagine the any application area, maybe in data security, finance, gaming, astronomy, or healthcare, e-commerce, entertainment, robotics, automation, social media, agriculture. You just only imagine anywhere in the world the AI is applicable. People are using AI, people are applying the AI, maybe at the beginning level, maybe at the advanced level, but AI is everywhere. I'm not going to discuss much detail about the AI in particular application or particular field. Yeah. Now the next things that is really I'm interesting to discuss. That was till time we have discussed about the basic AI history of the AI, conventional programming, non-conventional programming. All those things we have discussed. Now the things I'm going to focus on the basic terminology, because next 4 days or a lab session and all the concepts that are going to be teach and going to be presented you in the next coming days, they will consider every participant have a basic understanding of the AI, basic understanding of the terminologies. Because if the terminology wise everyone is clear and are on the same platform, it will help you to grasp the things in easy way in coming days. So there are a lot of things like training, testing, model, algorithm, features, and under that a lot of terminologies we are going to discuss when we teach, we will learn algorithms. So these terminologies we are going to discuss one by one. Okay. So uh, everybody know nowadays data is everything. Data is fuel, you can say, or data is crude oil, you can say. So when I talk about the data, you try to imagine a data. Suppose I'm just giving example, a data set of the student, because all of you were a student, or maybe you are handling the student. So I'm talking about the student data. You may recall all those columns like student name, first name, surname, date of birth, PAN number, academic detail like first semester CGPA, second semester CGPA, 10th standard CGPA, 12th standard CGPA, all their fees detail and where it is living, address, everything. You can consider all those data. So I am talking about the data. Take a simple picture. Data are in the Excel file. In Excel file, there is a column. Column means I'm talking about the attributes. So data set having an n number of attributes. Maybe and total number of attributes maybe one, maybe n. So attribute means, suppose example, the age of the student. So the attribute I'm talking about, attribute is something, some perspective against which some value were observed. Suppose student Vivek, the age is 35. So the perspective is the age, and a student is 35. Student Vivek Tiwari and age is 35. So this is the characteristics you can say of the student. You can say that is the attribute of that data, or student. You can say that is a variable. So if I talk about the variable, attribute, characteristics, features, all are the same in term of the AI and machine learning. So you might have observed some attribute or features contain a numerical value, like you can say the salary and weight of the person, and other example may be there. So these are the numerical attributes. Some attributes having a categorical attributes means the topic I'm going to cover here. What kind of different kind of attributes are possible in the data set, and how these attributes we have to handle smartly, so that the underlying algorithm can learn the concept, learn the pattern, and effectively.
So basically, we are going to discuss three category of attribute, three category of features. The first category is categorical attribute or nominal attribute. Second category is ordinal attribute, and third category is real valued attribute. So one by one, we will discuss with the example what is the meaning of that. So the first category is the categorical. A categorical variable or categorical attribute, sometimes also called a nominal attribute. So in the categorical attribute having a subcategory. In the subcategory, normally and technically we will tell about the label of the attribute. So it may have a two or more labels. So one thing I want to make it clear in the point second also there. In categorical attributes, we may have two or more than two number of labels, but among them there is no intrinsic ordering. Means if attribute having n number of multiple labels, you cannot say the label 1 is more superior to label 2. You cannot arrange in some decreasing or increasing order. You cannot have a intrinsic order among the label. So take example. Suppose I have a data of a student. There is a one attribute gender. So everybody know in the gender we have only two values. Either the student may be male or may be female. But if you consider that is called label of the attribute. Gender is an attribute that is a categorical attribute. It have two labels, male and female. Similarly, there may be another attribute like a hair color. Then hair color may be black, maybe brown, maybe red. So there is a three level of that categorical attribute. But try to recall that you cannot have an ordering among that label. You cannot say male is superior than female or female is superior than male. There is a something that gives the idea of the category, idea of the label, but there is no any intention order. So third point, try to please focus on there. Normally, when you encounter any data set from the UCI machine or from any other resources, normally categorical attribute also be presented by in term of numerical value. I mean to say, in the male, suppose the male is represented by 0 and female is represented by 1. When you see the data set, the gender, you don't find the character like a male and female. You will observe the value 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1 like that. 0 is male and 1 is female. Here, most of the people confused over there. So that is a numerical value. So that is 0 and 1 is not the way the numerical work over there. Means if you apply addition, multiplication, median, mode for that attribute, the meaning it is a meaningless. You cannot interpret what is a 0 plus 1 means 1, or 0 multiply 1, 0 multiply 1 means 0. So it is try to notice that all categorical variable label of categorical variable can also be represented by so other examples are listed over there comes under the categorical number variable like gene type and zip code. That is a normally I discuss with the student. The zip code is a numerical variable or a categorical variable. People say it is a numerical variable because numerics are over there like 493661472. So actually, zip code is not a numerical variable. That is again it is a categorical variable. Because zip code, what are the number over written over there? You cannot apply some formula, mathematical formula over those numbers. So it's 2 is 2 plus 2 4. So if you going to addition of two zip number, something new number you will receive and you will get, and that new number is a meaningless. You cannot interpret that. Because the zip code is something that is going to represent your location. If I am here and Dr. Ojas are here, both the zip code is same means we are sharing the same location. So it is also a categorical variable. Similarly, gender, eye color, political party, and other examples that comes under the categorical variable. Next, ordinal variable. This ordinal variable also very similar to the categorical variable, but it comes with one big difference. As in the categorical variable, between among the label there is no intrinsic order, but in the ordinal variable, looks like the categorical variable. but on the level you can have a clear ordering among the levels. So see, you can arrange ordering in highest with the low and with the high index. So take example of okay. So take example. Suppose I want to capture the economic status of a particular person. So it may have a three category. Economic status may be low, maybe medium, maybe high. So low means we can say that person is in that category. Really income is low in particular threshold value. Medium means income is medium, and high means person is a rich person. And you can also have a ordering. What is the meaning of low, medium, and high? You can arrange the things in that way. So there is also clear ordering among the variables. Like example, you can also consider the education level. The person may be doctorate, UG graduate, PG graduate, high school standard like that. There is also clear ordering among these levels. So we can say these are comes under the ordinal variable. Normally, whenever you go for the feedback, the people normally ask the question you like the movie or the lecture, extremely dislike. You can give the answer I like it, neutral, very bad in that way. This is also the ordinal variable, and every input given by you in term of label have their own meaning, and you can arrange that meaning in some order. So these are the ordinal variables. Take with example. I will also discuss why it is important. You see, the first question is over visible there. What is your gender? Answer is male and female. Then you can think what kind of variable it is. It is categorical variable or ordinal variable. It is a categorical variable because it has a two level, male and female, but there is no internal ordering. Second question is what is your hair color? Maybe brown, black, and gray and other. These are the five level under that category. This is also categorical variable because there is no other, you cannot arrange them in the order. Now, where do you live? Suppose you can say that we are South Indian, we are North Indian, we are from the east side. So that is also a categorical variable. Now the lower side of the slide, there is a two example. How do you feel today? So people say I'm very happy, unhappy, okay, like that. So these are the ordinal variables because the label of these variables have some order. They have some meaning. When I say unhappy, when I say okay, then you can have a judge. Yeah, this person is today is unhappy and something said, so I should not talk. I should not discuss this matter today. I will later come and discuss because this kind of knowledge given by the ordinary value. Similarly, another question is that feedback is very satisfied. The service provided by any company, the service is satisfied, very satisfied, not satisfied. So based on the input given by you, the company can change the way they're working, and they can start changing the product. For that they have taken the feedback. So all those things comes under the ordinal value. Actually, the question is that okay, I'll discuss in the third numerical variable. Then I will discuss why this type of variable why we are studying today. Then third kind of variable is a real valued variable, sometimes called numerical variable, sometimes called continuous.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Hello.
Can you please speak some? Can you please speak somehow close to your mic?
Why not? Why not? Please. Now it is better.
Yes.
Okay. So third kind of
Yeah.
category under the variables are the real valued or numerical variable or continuous variable. These kind of variable normally we think about the numeric value like integer value if you go for the C programming. So if any variable in your data set that contain the data of height of particular person, height of weight, temperature, blood glucose, anything where you can represent in term of numeric value, it is called the numerical variable or continuous variable. So in the numerical variable, continuous variable, you can observe in the blue color I have written over there, there is equal interval between adjacent numbers. If I say I am 10 kg my weight and my friend weight is 12 kg. So there is a 2 kg difference. These 2 kg difference is same as if I say I am 80 kg and my friend is 82 kg. So the difference between two adjacent number are same for the continuous variable. Now, the most important thing, there are two kind of continuous variable, internal and ratio. So normally, when deal with the internal ratio, they have a different kind of interpretation. Discuss with the internal. Interval scale are the numeric scale in which we not only the order but also exact difference between these values. Difference are interpretable. You see, the difference are interpretable. Take the example. Suppose you are going to calculate the height of particular person, weight of particular person, the temperature. And if I say the temperature is 10 degree here at 12 degree in that side, 2 degree difference you can assume over there. The same definitions comes with the ratio, but having a big difference. Please try to see with your full attention. Normally people don't know what is the difference between interval and a ratio. Both are numerical variable. Both in the both case the difference are interpretable. In the both cases there is equal interval between the adjacent number. But what is the difference? Now see the example. In the ratio, difference are meaningful like an interval. Last line I am reading. Ratio. The difference are meaningful like interval plus ratio are also meaningful. What is the meaning of that? Suppose I say, suppose I say my weight is 10 kg and my friend weight is 20 kg. So my friend is twice is twice heavy as much as I am. Means you can see if the 10 kg is just double of 5 kg. But in case of temperature, you try to understand temperature. Suppose I say today's temperature is 10 degrees Celsius, or next month temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. You cannot say the 20 degrees Celsius city is double or twice hot as 10 degrees Celsius city. So try to imagine what I'm trying to convey with you. In the temperature, take example, if the two city having a city A is a 10 degrees Celsius temperature and city B having a 20 degrees Celsius. So you cannot say city B is twice as hot city A. But in case of weight, you can say like that. If I'm 20 kg weight and my friend weight is 40 kg, you can say your friend is double heavy than you. So means ratio is meaningful. If any numerical variable, if the ratio is meaningful, it comes under the ratio. If ratio is not meaningful, it comes under the interval. That is a big difference between interval and ratio. Now the question I just skip over there. Why this type of categorical variable are important? In term of convince, the discussion is very nice discussion I'm going to have here. Please try to have your attention. In the conventional programming, also there is a variable. Means integer, float, character, array, or string. These are the variables. But try to recall what was the primary objective when we declare a variable in the conventional programming. Everybody say, yeah, why we need a variable in the conventional programming? That is more focused with the memory. If I say the integer, if I say the array, if I say the character, how these variables are going to store in the memory. So the memory organization was the main focus when I talk about the category or variable in the conventional programming. But when we study the same variable in machine learning and AI, our focus changed. Our focus is different. It is not how these variables are going to be stored in the memory, how much space it will take, how can I retrieve this variable. It is not a main focus. Main focus is that interpretation. Okay, why we are today in the AI and machine learning, a basic objective is to make a machine to learn something. In a conventional programming, our objective was not to make a machine that can learn something. I want to develop a machine that will behave, that will think like a human being. That is a basic primary objective of the AI or machine learning, where the system should behave like a human. So, what the way human learn the things, learn the data, the same concept I have to feed to the system. So, when I talk about this is the this is the female, the particular person X is a male, a particular person Y is the female. Or when I say about I am happy, or this person is not happy. So in the conventional programming, if you try to keep this information in the conventional way, so where MALE male means male, FEMALE females means females. More than that, the computer don't need to be understand what is the meaning of male, what is the meaning of female. They don't want to understand the meaning of male and female. They can capture data in form of string or character, MALE, only that. But in the conventional programming, when I feed some data to the system can learn if the data or this data is belongs to the female. Female may have a different kind of thinking. Female may have a different kind of behavior. In the same context, given the same context, male may behave differently than female. Everyone will agree. Similarly, in the given same context, same sentence, same discussion, if I have a with my friend that is unhappy today, it may have a different kind of reaction. In the same topic, if I discuss with the friend and he's happy, he may have a different kind of behavior, different kind of reaction. Means really, what is the condition, what is the variable is currently storing some value, and based on that value, the behavior may change. So this kind of knowledge we have. We understand this is a male and female. But how can a machine understand what is the meaning of male and what is the meaning of female? I'm trying to more focus on the meaning. So when feed the data with the happy or unhappy status of the particular person, what is the meaning of happy? What is the meaning of unhappy? How can you convey? How can you feed this kind of information with this kind of knowledge to the system? System cannot understand male or female or happy or unhappy. So that's the kind of variable the scientists of AI and machine learning have developed. Then when we upload the data in the system and we feed that data to any algorithm, then intentionally, explicitly, we have to define this is the category gender considered as a categorical variable. This is the variable. This is a variable that is called weight. So to consider as a ratio, do not consider as an interval. This is the variable that is contain the temperature of the country. Consider as an interval, not a ratio. So every information explicitly we have to provide when we upload the data to the system, so that data can understand is the ratio have a different interpretation. If the data is interval, have a different interpretation. If data is ordinal, have a different interpretation. Data comes under the categorical, have a different interpretation. So here the purpose of categorizing the data set or data have a different meaning to give the different kind of knowledge to the system. I hope I am clear in this way. Okay, so going to the next step where we are going to discuss the branches of machine learning. In the diagram, it is visible at the code machine learning. It have 4 branches: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, and semi-supervised learning. So normally people does not consider semi-supervised learning as a separate branch. So we can consider the 3 big branches of machine learning: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So we start with the supervised learning. In the supervised learning, we have a set of input and we also have a set of output. Only we need to learn how the input we can map with the output. In other words, in the supervised learning, we intentionally tell to machine what need to be learned, and machine also know what machine need to be learned. Only machine have to do only one things. Through the pattern, through the trend, it can analyze the data, scan the data multiple times, and can develop a formula or can develop a mapping so that it can map with the input and output. If the machine is able to nicely map the input with the output, the performance of the machine will make you happy. So here the input also known, output also known in the supervised learning. Like I have given example of hand digit recognition or fruit recognition, where in the training session we have to give a lot of images of the banana, then computer will learn it is a banana. If computer learn, then in next time it can predict nicely. Unsupervised learning, and something we when we have a huge amount of data, we feed that data to the algorithms, and we have nothing to guide algorithms to learn from the data. Then itself algorithm have to learn through the scanning, through the analyzing, and try to develop the pattern or trend or any other knowledge that is hidden that data. Then algorithm itself have to learn from that. We cannot say whatever the algorithm have learned it is correct or not, because we don't have any label, we don't have any correct output so that we can match it. That is called unsupervised learning. Nobody is going to supervise it. Third one is the reinforcement learning. Here the machine learn by doing the thing. So take example, if someone touch something and he get burned, then we can learn, oh, that things is very hot or that is not good for us, we should not touch it. So here the machine can learn by doing the things. A better way to understand is that take example of game playing. In the game playing, the machine or a human being learn by doing the things. You cannot say this is the formula, you memorize it. Once if you nicely memorize the formula, then you will be expert of game. Example of chess. So if you want to be expert, either human being or machine want to expert in given scenario, given game or given xyz problem, then if the machine is learned by doing the things, then slowly it will learn. That is called reinforcement learning. Technically, if I say there is a set of actions, and machine perform action in a given scenario and see the impact of the environment. So if such impact, then we have to feed the impact back to the machine, and it is evaluated in term of reward matrix. If whatever the action you are performing, if the reward matrix tells you that you are close to the solution or you are close to the goal, this means whatever the action you have taken, that action was in the right manner or right direction. So here are basically three things: action you have to perform, the goal you have to given, and the reward matrix. Based on the action, reward matrix will tell you the impact of your action, how the action is close to your goal, and based on the reward matrix value, you try to optimize, you try to change the behavior of the machine. So basically, you can think there is a three kind of machine learning category. So take example, suppose supervised learning, there is a two kind of supervised learning, then regression and classification. The people are so much confused in the in supervised learning. When I talk about the regression, I'm not talking about the linear regression. Regression is it is a type of problems comes under the supervised learning. Similarly, classification is also a different type of problems that comes under the supervised learning. What is the difference then? Suppose supervised learning, also known as a predictive analytics, where you want to predict something. So suppose whatever the things you want to predict, that is label or that is a character value, then it is classification. Or suppose in a given application you want to predict a numerical value, that comes under the regression. Suppose I want to predict with the data whether the student is going to select in coming campus drive or not. So the answer may be like that, it is going to select yes or no. The answer is yes or no means it is classification. If I say a given image is dog or cat, whatever the image you will feed the computer will recognize either it is a dog or either it is a cat. So it is a classification because you are going to predict the class level or in some character value you are going to predict. Another example you can consider, suppose I want to develop a system that will predict the salary of a particular person. So a salary of a particular person, it must be a numeric value. So it comes under the regression. So regression means when you're going to predict a numerical value, it comes under regression. Under regression, you may use a linear regression, you can use a decision tree, and a lot of things you can use under regression. Similarly, classification, so many algorithms. In the unsupervised learning, then association rule, principal component analysis, strings are the best example of the association rule. and reinforcement learning, you cannot say exactly this is the algorithm comes under reinforcement learning, because it is kind of system, multiple algorithms, multiple maybe clustering, classification, multiple algorithms you have to use in the reinforcement learning, and based on the reward matrix and action you have to define. So if this kind of the problem you are solving, it comes under reinforcement. Okay, so it was about the category or features or variable of the data set, about the type of machine or AI algorithms. Now I'm going to discuss about the model development life cycle, because that is things we are going to develop today or also in coming 4 days. Model development life cycle, people are also have a confusion between model and algorithm. You try to ask a question with the student, what is the algorithm, what is the model? Most of the time they will fail to answer. So today we'll discuss all those things. Model development life cycle means I am assuming we have problem already given to you and data set already given to you. You have all the complete data set, and what you need to be done, you also know. You have already goal and plus data set. So based on the goal, based on the data set, first you have to consider the algorithm. Whether the given problem is clustering kind of problem, or problem is classification, a problem is the reinforcement learning kind of problem. If it is the class, if it is a supervised learning kind of issue, then it is a regression or the classification. What character, what kind of problem you have given? If you know about that, then you can select the algorithm. Now, it is not like that. Whatever the algorithm you select in first way, it is the optimal algorithm, or you will select in nice way. First, it may happen whatever the selection you had made for the algorithm, it may be wrong. Then you have to try with another algorithm in the same context, and then a third algorithm for the same context. Means multiple way you have to try the multiple algorithms. You have to develop the full model, then you have to see the performance, and based on the performance you can select which algorithm is performing in the best way. So there is no any hard and fast defined rule to select the algorithm. It is a hit and try. Now if you have finalized the algorithm you want to work on that, then you require a training. In the training, I will discuss later what is the training. In the training, it is a process where algorithm really learn from the data. So in the training process, after that you have to validate, you have to evaluate your model. Whatever the model you have learned through the training is really fulfilling your requirement, your expectation, or the model may perform in all the conditions. Sometimes it may happen based on the data set your model is performing very nice, but in the real sense, real environment, it failed. So we have to evaluate and validate our model in this section. Last one is the optimization. There is a sky is the limit. Once you have a model, you can improve the performance of your model. In the improve the performance of model means I'm not going to say the change the algorithm. I'm going to say you can do a lot of pre-processing. You can change the parameter. You can change the other environment parameter. You can customize the things and see in which combination the output you are getting that is make you feel comfortable output, best output, and your model is perfect. So all these things are the basic step under the model development, and we are going to have all these 4 steps during the lab session. So one thing, the question I have asked to you, the difference between algorithm and model. The difference is that the algorithm, when you feed a data to the algorithm, then through the training process, algorithm learns something. So I can say the trained algorithm is known as a model. Model is totally different from the algorithm. I suggest do not use both the word in the same way. Both have a different meaning. Suppose it's try to focus the discussion over here. I'm going to discuss very good things. Uh, hello. Okay. So algorithm is something that contain a predefined sets logical steps. Then you have to follow. Once you feed the data to the algorithm change their behavior. So take example. Through example, we can understand better way. Suppose in the conventional programming, I say write a algorithm to addition of two number. Then you can write a algorithm addition of two number. Somebody will see the algorithm and it will code that algorithm the language it can comfortable, and the code will work fine. But in the conventional in the AI or machine learning programming, similarly we have an algorithm. Consider example of decision tree. Decision tree is an algorithm. The steps are over there. You can follow that step, and the algorithm will learn something. Suppose now the twist come in between. Suppose in the decision tree, I have a data set. Data set is for only apple. Means you have a data set that contain a lot of images of the apple. You feed that data set to the algorithm decision tree, then easily you can predict the algorithm will learn automatically how the apple look like. So in the next in the future, when the algorithm will see any image of the apple, easily it can recognize classify it as apple. Now I'm saying, okay, no, leave it. Don't feed the data of apple, remove it. The person B can have a different scenario. It can take a same algorithm the person A have taken, but now the person B is feeding the data set of banana, and the person will train that algorithm with the banana. Then easily you can predict, yeah, the person B have a different same algorithm, data decision tree, same algorithm, but it have a different data set of banana, so the algorithm have a different behavior now. Now the algorithm is able to identify the banana. So what are things I want to convey over here? In the conventional programming, suppose you want to change the behavior of your program. In the behavior of the program, then you have to change in the code. Everyone agree? Whatever the program you have written, I want to change the behavior of the program. You have to go to the code. You have to change the code. Then your program will behave differently. But in the machine learning programming, it is not the scenario. Here we have to change the data, not code. Whether the same algorithm can learn to classify mango, same algorithm can learn to classify the banana, same algorithm can learn to classify cat and dog. So means if you want to change the behavior in the machine learning type kind of applications, you don't need to change in the code. You need to change into the data set. Algorithm automatically change its behavior. So that's why in the definition people call machine learning or AI is something that give the ability a computer to learn automatically without explicitly programmed. That is the word I think might have all of you have read or listened somewhere. Machine learning is something that gives the ability to automatically learn from the data without explicitly programmed. So there is a two kind of word: implicitly programming or explicitly programming. Explicitly programming means you have to write everything. So whatever you want to perform, like addition of two number. But in implicit programming, you don't know what the algorithm will how the algorithm will work. It will be based on the data. So if you feed the mango data, the algorithm will learn how to recognize the mango. If you feed the banana data, algorithm will learn how to recognize the banana. Means we don't need to write explicitly code to recognize the banana or either to recognize the mango. You don't need to write the code for a particular problem. It is the responsibility of algorithms to automatically learn the moment it will observe the new kind of data. So that's why it is called intelligence. We don't need to write a code explicitly. Algorithm will learn automatically with the data. So the trained algorithm is known as a model because algorithm have a different behavior. Algorithm is something in the type of code without any brain. It is a dumb code. But when you train that algorithm with some data, it has some kind of learning, it's some kind of knowledge, then we start saying is a model. Okay. So now we have a model, then model validation and evaluation. There is a big chapter itself. Model evaluation and validation take a lot of time. The required things, what is the model evaluation and validation, we will see in the lab. Similarly, model optimization, sky is the limit, and we will see in the linear regression when I will cover in the lab or next session what are the way we can optimize our model. Now, basic terminology, many of you might be very much aware about the training and testing data set. So in very abstract way, I'm talking about, we can divide our data into two parts: training data and testing data. Make it clear, I'm talking about the supervised learning. When we are working with the problem that comes under the supervised learning, we normally divide the data into training data and test data. If you are dealing with unsupervised problem like a clustering you want to implement, you don't need to divide your data into training and testing. Because in the unsupervised learning, the clustering, you don't have any output. You don't have any output, then you cannot check, you cannot validate, you cannot test your model whether it is giving a correct output or not. So in the clustering, we don't have concept of training and testing. But if you're supervised learning, then there is a concept of training and testing. In the training, we have a data set, and also the training data set contains the real answer, correct answer. That is called label. So in the training data set, whatever the data set you have, normally 70% of data we divide as a part of training data set, and remaining 30% we consider as a test data set. Only one difference between training and testing data set is that training dataset contain the label or correct answer, whereas testing dataset does not contain the label or the correct answer. In the training dataset, algorithm will try to learn the mapping between input and output if the input is X or output is Y1. So why the output is Y1? Through the dataset, huge amount of dataset you have to provide, and during that process, algorithm learn the mapping. Now we have to see whether the algorithm is learn mapping correct way or not. Then we have to go with the data set. Once training is over, then algorithm is a model. Now we have a model because training is over. Then we have to apply that model to the test data set. We have to input that test data set to the model. Then based on the input, model will predict something. Then we have also a real answer. Then we have to try to match whatever the model, whatever the label is predicted by your model is really matching with the real value or not. So based on that result, we can say the performance of the model is acceptable or not. In the same slide, the right hand side, there is a display full process. First, we have to feed the training data, that is around 70% of data, to the model or to the algorithms. Once the algorithm's training is over, then we have to provide the test data. Based on the test data, we have to evaluate the result. If we are happy with the results, or your model is performing above than the threshold value, that is minimum expected by your scenario. If it is okay, then go for the deployment. You can say our model is ready. So that is the process that comes with every supervised learning, whether it is deep learning, whether it is the regression, where is the classification, what kind of problem you are handling with that, you have to follow the system. Okay, so next things I'm going to cover rescaling of the data. It is very important. Why? First, we understand what kind of rescaling. Then I will discuss why the rescaling is important. It's rescaling is the concept that comes under the data pre-processing, where the first kind of rescaling I will discuss about the normalization. It is also called min-max normalization. But whatever the data you have, I am considering only the numerical value or continuous value or attributes. You can apply the normalization only continuous value attribute. So once you apply a normalization, you take example of weight. Suppose I have a data set. I have captured the weight of particular person. Then normally you can say the weight of person may vary from 0 kg to 200 kg. Just assume there is a number. 0 kg is not possible, but assume that the range of that attribute weight may vary from 0 to 200. Now you may apply the normalization of that continuous value attribute. And if you are applying the min max normalization, it will squeeze, it will rescale your data against that variable between 0 to 1. Means before applying the normalization, the value range from the 0 to 200. Once you apply the normalization, it will rescale or it will skew your data between 0 to 1. Every value on that column now between the 0 to 1. Why we are doing, I will discuss later what is the significance of that. The formula is written over there for the min-max normalization. That is a specialized formula. Here the condition is that suppose I want to squeeze the data between 0 to 1, then you can use this formula. And there is also a generalized formula for the normalization. You can Google it, where you can decide your own range. I don't want to squeeze my data between 0 to 1 range. I want to squeeze my data between 0 to 10. Then you can also use that formula. A very simple formula is there. That is called generalized normalization formula, where you can define your own range to squeeze the data set. Similarly, the similar method is the standardization. Standardization, also known as the Z-score normalization, is also used for rescaling the data, and formula is visible to you, where we have to subtract each value from this mean and divide by the standard deviation. Now this is an important discussion going to have. Normally, if you discuss with the person that have a beginner level in the machine learning or AI, people think normalization and standardization are both the same thing. Or randomly, you want to rescale your data. Either you can use the normalization or you can use the standardization in random way. It is not like at all. Both the formula have a different interpretation and different purpose. So normalization and standardization are a technique for rescaling, but have both have a different intention and different impact your data set. Okay, so take example of min-max normalization. Point 2 I am reading. The normalization usually means to rescale the data between 0 to 1. But point third, when you apply the standardization, it will transform your data in the new data where the mean of that data will be 0 or around 0, and the standard deviation will be 1. I mean to say, suppose you have a variable weight, you just apply a standardization, and you will see the new variable weight 1. Then you will calculate, if you calculate the weight 1 mean, it will give the value 0, and a standard deviation of the new variable will be 1. So that is the characteristics of the standardization, is that if you once you apply whatever the new variable you will see, it will have a mean 0 and st1. It is not case of the normalization. So now the main question comes in our mind. I want to rescale my data. So which option I should first? Whether we have to normalize your data or we have to standardize your data? So simple answer. Suppose first you have to see the data distribution. Suppose any variable x you want to apply the rescaling. First you have to check through the scatter plot or any other plot or the histogram the distribution of your data. If your data distribution is a Gaussian curve or data is normally distributed, then if you apply the normalization, then it will be a disaster. Not at all. Never apply the normalization against any variable if the variable is normally distributed or already have a Gaussian curve, because it will reshape your data set and it will destroy all the Gaussian curve property. So variable x having a Gaussian curve, you apply the normalization. After the normalization, you will get a new data set. If you see the data distribution, it will not be no longer now Gaussian curve. It will destroy the shape. It is a nice property with the standardization that if the data set already have a Gaussian curve property, then you want to keep, you want to intact that property. Whatever the rescaled data set or new data set you will receive, it should maintain, it should keep the same same characteristics, Gaussian curve. Then the standardization is the solution. So both have the different impact and different meaning, and based on the data set characteristics, nicely you have to choose which kind of data scaling function you have to use. Okay, so for today's session from my side, I think it is enough to have a discussion about the introduction of AI, some basic terminologies, some type of method under the AI, and now we can open our discussion for the questions and answer. If anybody have any doubt, any question, then you can ask.
Hello, sir. The presentation was really good. This is Nazira. Sir,
Yeah.
I would like to know that the major applications which are
Mhm.
depending on AI,
Mhm.
are they with the supervised or unsupervised, sir?
So you want to know the application of the machine learning, whether it's supervised or
Ajay, like
unsupervised.
I said to Haina, like we have the medical and the other things, like we have in many things we are having machine learning nowadays.
Okay.
So are they with supervised or with unsupervised, sir?
You tell me some application, then I will able to tell you whether it is
Sir, I will
supervised.
tell you, sir. I will give you maybe like we are now into Google Maps,
Okay.
which is the major application of machine learning. That's one name. And second, we are into medical also. We're just
Second one is
booming it. Are they based
second
on
second one is
medical diagnosis?
okay.
Medical diagnosis. Yeah.
Okay.
And there
So
are few top leading applications like we have the chatbot and other things, all banking, finance, stock, everything in machine learning. Are they with supervised or unsupervised?
yeah. Take one by one. Take example of medical application. Suppose I want to develop a medical
Acha.
application where we have a suppose image of scan. Suppose I have a scan of chest.
Ah,
And in the medical application, almost all the applications are supervised learning, because in the medical
acha.
application, what you want, I take an image of particular person, then I have to
Hmm.
feed that image to the system. Then system must be able to guide us whether it is suffering from disease X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
This kind of application over there means I want to
Hmm.
predict from the system whether the
Hmm.
input image I am giving, it is
Hmm.
having a disease X, Y, or Z. So something I want to
Hmm.
predict. When it means any
Hmm.
application you try to image where you want to
Hmm.
predict something, where system will give you some output, it always be a
Hmm.
supervisor. Not
Hmm.
talking about the
Is
chatbot.
it something first we predict, or is it something we first predict or classify, sir?
Both are same. Prediction and
Both the
classification
same.
same
Both the
thing.
same.
Both the same. Suppose I'm just feeding image of
Okay.
particular person. I'm image of particular
Okay.
person, and system will
Hmm.
classify the person is happy, neutral, or sad. Suppose. So the
Acha, you were
person,
telling.
system have to tell based on the image.
Yeah, yeah.
Leave it. Suppose I'm feeding a face image, and system has to tell whether it's a male or female. Suppose. So
Hmm.
the system have two
Classify.
options. So that
Hmm.
is classifying, or it is also predicting. Classification means prediction only. Both are same thing.
Acha. A little probability, statistics, regression, all we should have some basic knowledge, isn't it, sir? I think
No,
then only validation and other things we'll be able to understand it, isn't it, sir?
very nice. It will help you to capture the concept we are
Yeah,
going to
that's
discuss
right.
next 4 days.
That is really,
Because in
really
the
very strong session, sir. Thank you so much. I
thank
think I have other people will be asking questions. Thank you so much. It was a really good
thank
session.
you thank,
Thank you so much, sir. Bye.
thank you.
Sir,
Any other? Yeah.
can you please explain the brief difference between again the normalization and standardization?
Yeah.
I still have a confusion in the data.
Okay. So in detail, I will discuss in the linear regression. Just in your satisfaction, I am telling. Almost there is no any machine learning algorithm that is perfect in all dimension. Am I audible? I'm audible. Yeah.
No, sir.
So
Actually, sir, others are not on mute. I think so.
please, I request to everybody, please mute yourself. And when you want to ask a question, then you unmute it. So I'm just explaining. Sir have asked a question on normalization and standardization. So one thing try to keep in mind, in every algorithm under machine learning comes with some assumptions. Assumption means these are the prerequisite, or these are the conditions. If the condition match, then this algorithm is perform in nice way. Otherwise, it will fail. Agree? So I say 70 to 80% algorithms in the machine learning have assumptions that data should be normally distributed. I will discuss in the later in the linear regression. So one of the assumption is the data set or variables should be Gaussian curve or normally distributed. So that is the assumptions given by the algorithms. Now, luckily, you have a data and that is satisfied that assumptions. It is already normally distributed. but you want to rescale it. You want to change its range. Why you need to rescale the data, I will discuss also. So if the data is already in Gaussian curve and you want to apply the rescaling, and unluckily without any knowledge, suppose you have applied the normalization, then it will change the shape of your curve. The data are already distributed normally or Gaussian curve. With the normalization, it will destroy your data shape, and you want to keep your data intact, and whatever the characteristics or data distribution already before the normalization, I want to keep the same characteristics after the rescaling. Then you have to apply the standardization. Standardization always keep the data characteristics as it was before scaling. So that is the beauty with the standardization. So you know about why we need to rescale the data.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
if you know rescale the data, why it is important, you try to understand the concept. Suppose I want to feed the data to the algorithm X, and that data have only two variables. Suppose the variable is age of the person in year and the salary. Suppose, agree? You have a data set having only two variable. One variable is the age of particular person. The age may vary from the 0 to 100. Agree? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, I
Second,
muted it after.
yeah.
Yeah.
So second variable is the salary that may range from the 0 to crores. Agree? So whenever you feed this kind of data to the algorithm will start scanning or scanning your data set, and the algorithm will learn automatically this variable having a small range 0 to 100, and this variable having a big range 0 to crores. So the variable salary is much important variable where the age is not important. So because the range of age is smaller as compared to the range of salary. So during the learning, during the training process of the algorithm will give the less focus on the age, and it will give the more focus on the salary. So it is disaster, because whatever the purpose you are training your algorithms, age is also important. And sometimes suppose you want to predict the muscles power of the person, and the input is the age and salary. So if you want to predict the muscles power, then age is an important factor. You cannot say if the person having a lot of big salary and he is so much old person will have a good muscles power. No, muscles power also decided by, also influenced by the age of the person. So if you want to make arrangement in the system where the algorithm will give equal weightage on the age and on the salary, then you have to rescale it. The age must be belong to 0 to 100 or 0 to 1. If normalize it, then you have to also normalize your salary data set, your salary attribute between 0 to 1. If both the attributes have a same range, then algorithm will give equal weightage on the attributes. Agree? So that's why we have to require the rescaling everywhere. And before rescaling, you have to decide whether you want to apply the normalization or standardization. If your variable is already Gaussian distributed, apply the standardization. Otherwise, you can apply the normalization.
Sure, sir. Fine.
I hope you're satisfied.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Brilliant. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other participant?
Sir, I want to ask one question.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a lot of data, but I confused this data tested on supervised learning method or unsupervised learning method. Because I have data of values, some values are there. We want
Okay.
some predictions from these values.
Okay. What kind of predictions?
Some suggestions are I want to give the industrial persons.
So actually, the supervised learning means whatever you have.
Business solutions.
No, I want to clear it. If your data set, go to the you see your data set, and if there is a column something that is the label or output column are already there, that you want to
Yeah.
predict, that you want to suggest. If such kind of column is there, then it is supervised learning. Easily you can handle it. If there is no such column, no any output variable, then it is unsupervised learning.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
discuss in detail, then I will be able to help you.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sir, I have one question, sir.
More questions?
So why did you keep sir supervised and semi-supervised in different category? And can you give some examples between the semi-supervised and supervised?
And then I clarified at the same time. Semi-supervised learning, it is not a different branch. Sometimes people say semi-supervised is a different branch, but most of the people agree semi-supervised is a part of supervised learning. What is the difference I mean to say? Sometimes it happen if your data set, suppose you have 100 images, okay, and
Okay.
100 images contain three kind of fruits: apple, mango, and banana. Okay, so you have images have some sequence number 1 2 300, and you have also Excel file that will contain the image sequence number plus its label, whether the image 1 is banana, image 2 is apple, image 3 is mango, like that. Okay, so suppose assume you have a data, you have all the data, but some of the data label is missing. Some of the data labels are missing. You have images, but you don't know the image is apple or mango. That is the example I am giving you. You have a domain knowledge, then you can say, so it is very visible to see it is apple or mango. Sometime, suppose I have a numerical data. Okay, I have images, and image I have converted into the digital form, and the last column is the person is happy, unhappy, or sad, suppose. Okay, so now you have a data not in the form of image. Now you have a data in form of digital image. Okay, you have a numerical data, and last column is happy, unhappy, happy, unhappy, and some of the column are missing. Maybe malfunctioning of the system, maybe somebody intentionally deleted, something may happen, so the labels are missing. So in that case, the data sets, most of the case there is a label, but some data set are without label. That is called semi-supervised learning, where the some part of the data have the answer you can map, and some of the data don't have the answer, they don't have the correct label. So that is called semi-supervised learning.
So in this case, sir, we are doing some data pre-processing. If suppose you having some missing data, then you can replace with the zero or the mean or whatever values are there. So why do you are keeping in separate category?
Yeah, that is very good question. Actually, what happens when you deal with the missing value, you try to understand. I'm not talking about the missing value of attribute. I'm talking about the missing value of the label. Suppose you have a 10 attribute. Agree? Age,
Yes, sir.
particular person, age, salary, pen number, everything. The last attribute is person is happy, unhappy, happy, and unhappy. Okay. So in the attribute label, if your data set is missing, you can, during the pre-processing, you can find some suitable value, maybe mean, maybe xyz. The way you have a lot of techniques to find out the missing value.
Yes.
In this case, if whatever the value you are replacing at the missing value, if it is not ideal value, it is not correct value, it may work. Okay, because there are other attributes that can adjust your error. But at the attribute level, at the last level, I'm talking about the class level. The class level means all the 10 input variable is one side, and last label or class level variable is the other side, that is called output variable. So if you make any mistake when you do during the pre-processing, and you have just find out the label X, but real label was the Y. You have the output variable is mislabeled. That is called label noise kind of problem. So if you can commit a error during the missing value computation in the attribute label, it is permissible. But if you commit the mistake during the missing value computation of the class level, it is not permittable, because there is no other variable that can cancel your error, because that is an output variable. So during if the missing labels you will receive at the output variable, it is highly suggested, don't apply the normal missing value imputation if you are handling with the output variable. So in semi-supervised learning, the attributes against which label is missing, during the pre-processing, you have to find out the attributes or the correct label of those missing labels. It is also part of pre-processing. I'm not saying it's also part of pre-processing. During pre-processing, you have to find the suitable value of the missing label. But that process is totally different from the way you can find the missing value in the attribute level. I hope I tried to satisfy you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Hi, sir. There's
Please.
one more question.
Yeah.
Like how one can divide training and testing data set by 70 and 30 scenario.
The question is that why?
Like how, like for example, if we have a audio data,
Yeah.
speaker verification or speech recognition data. So there are,
Okay.
and like sometimes people will ask the question like how you will, why you will divide 70 and 30 ratio. Is there any scientific reason to take 70 and 30 as per, because some research paper are taking 80-20, some are taking 70-30.
Yeah.
Can you please clarify
That
this
is
stuff?
that is good question. There is no any standard guideline whether it should be 70 or 80 or 75 or 80. There is not a any perfect guideline. But more than that, I want to clear in real application, we don't really divide the data in 70% or 30%. Why? Because there is a concept of k-fold validation. If you recall that term or you know about that term, k-fold validation. Do you know about that term? Hello.
Yeah. I know that.
Actually, what happened there in real life,
Yeah.
we don't have a such scenario where 70% data, 30% data. In real life, we apply the k-fold validation. In the k-fold validation, what happened? We divide our data into k number of subset. Suppose k is a 10. Then whatever the data set you have to divide your data set into 10 equal parts. Agree? In the 10 equal parts, then there will be multiple training and testing phase, where in the case in phase one, step one, you have to keep 9 part together as a training data set and remaining 1 part for the testing data set. In the second step, next 9 part you will consider as a training data set and remaining 1 part for the testing data set. So through the 10 iterations, you will consider almost all the data set for training purpose, all the data set for the testing purpose. In real life, it is happen like that.
Can you repeat this 10 example again?
Hello, yeah. So now the question is if how to decide the value of k. So the question is how you can get the value of k. This is the question. Hello.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah. So again, I'm saying there is no any hard and fast rule. The way you can calculate the value of k. K you can start the value of k from any number, and you can increase the value of k based on the performance of the algorithm. If the algorithm is highly influenced with the number of k, suppose k is the 5, algorithm performance is 75%. And now the second time you test with the k is equal to 10, the algorithm is performance is 95%. Efficiency is 95%. Means your algorithm performance is highly impacted by the value of k. Then you have to check your system with all the possible value of the k, and when the system will converge and is stable, then you can say this value of k is a final. So hit and try. That is a totally hit and try. There is no any guideline.
For example, you have 1000 audios. Okay.
Yeah.
In total, you
Yeah.
have collected 1000 audios from 10 speakers. So can you
Okay.
please tell me in aspect of K4, like how you will do training and testing? Or
And
how
then
you will implement K4?
normally you can start. Suppose there is a 1000 data set you have, say 1000.
1000 audios spoken by 10 speakers.
1000 data set. Okay, the speaker is
1000 audios,
no
1000 audios taken by
no.
10 speakers. So it means each
Okay,
speaker spoke 100 audios.
100 audio. So I will suggest there is a 1000 data set over there. So you can randomly start with the k is equal to 10, yeah, k is equal to 15, and you gradually test your application with the k is equal to 10, k is equal to 11, k is equal to 12, k is equal to 13. The moment you will observe the performance is not increasing, but the performance is stable, you can say this is the number, final number of the value of k.
Okay.
there is a backward selection or a forward selection. You can start with the big value of k. You can start with the k equal to 100. You can start with the value of 100 and can gradually reduce the value.
Thank you. Thanks for your input.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else, please?
Sir, this is Nazira again.
Thank you.
You were talking about the algorithms now, right now.
Yeah.
You have not touched up on the algorithm part. Will you be talking about in the later session?
No, in the next session we are going to have a linear regression in detail.
अच्छा अच्छा तो अभी तो ऐसे तो ये back propagation algorithm and other algorithms and all you have
Oja sir
not
will cover.
touched.
Oja sir will cover.
Acha, thank you so much.
That is,
Yeah.
that is in syllabus. Oja sir will cover. So today I am going to
Thank you,
cover.
thank
Yeah, thank you. Anybody
Okay,
else?
sir.
So what is the suitable timing to start the next session? It is almost 12 o'clock. So we can start within 15 minutes.
Yes, sir. 12:15.
Hello.
Sir, I think 12:30 is
12:30.
yes, sir. If possible.
What?
Platform also. Like,
Okay. So
So we can start at 12 itself.
So we'll start in 15 minutes, sir.
That's I feel 30 minutes will be I think a big long time.
Yes,
So
sir.
we may start around 12:15 sharp.
Sir,
Okay.
here or Microsoft Team?
Same mode.
All right, sir. They are considering that it will be on Microsoft Teams.
Because Oja sir is telling the installed Microsoft Team.
And so we are very confused with that.
Okay, I'm to make it clear. Today all the session I will going to conduct with the WebEx, the mode we are
Thank
currently
you.
I'm using.
Thank
So
you.
don't worry for today's session at all.
Makes sense.
Okay, we are meeting again in 12:15 sharp.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.